Attention, please. Eastern Airlines Flight 72, your Fiesta flight to Mexico and the ancient pyramids, now departing at Gate 19.
Shrouded in a daft disguise,
they pretend to terrorize.
With laughs and tears and footlights all aglow, the sparks ignite. Ha! A brand new show.
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, my friend, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your guide to the Disney parks, experiences, movies, and more. I am your host, Lou Mangello, and this is show number 795. And together, as we have been since 2005, I want to not only help you have the best Disney vacation experience when you go to the parks, but I also want to bring you a little bit of that Disney magic wherever you are. Here on the podcast, my weekly live video, blog, events, newsletter, and more. Please join the community and find everything at WDWRadio.com. And D23, the ultimate Disney fan event, it'll always be D23 Expo to me, is back this week. And after attending every expo since the very first one 15 years ago in 2009, as both a guest and an exhibitor, and really a fan first, I am very fortunate to have some incredible experiences thanks to you. So this week, in a new segment I'm simply calling My 5, I'm going to share my 5 most memorable moments from D23 Expo. Now, this episode is not only something that is new, but sort of unique because it's going to be my very first solo episode since the very first episode of WDW Radio, and probably since I started podcasting back in 2005. So I certainly invite and welcome your feedback, positive or otherwise, about the segment idea as well as this week's episode. You can come be part of the community and conversation over in the Clubhouse at wdwradio.com/clubhouse or call the voicemail 407-900-9391. That's 407-900-WDW1, and I will share your story on the show. Be sure to stay tuned for a Disney Trivia Question of the Week, where you can enter for a chance to win a Disney Prize package. Don't forget to sign up for my free weekly email newsletter at wdwradio.com, and when you do, I'll send you a free copy of my 102 Things to Do at least once in Walt Disney World book. Please connect and chat with me on social. I'm at Lou Mangello on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you like what you hear, and I hope that you do, please share the show and tell a friend. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show. I'm going to do something I've never done before. Well, I did it once, literally back on show number 1, which was 6.5 minutes of me very nervously introducing the new show after my former show, Mouse Tunes, went away the week before. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous this week too, because I've been doing live video, mostly solo, weekly since 2007, but the podcast, I've always loved having guests come on and them and you virtually being part of the conversation. And a few years ago on the live show, I did something new. I'm always trying to experiment with new ideas there, where I did my own top 5 live, where I just did, instead of a top 10, I did a solo top 5 show of something that was maybe timely for that week. And a few weeks ago on the live show, I brought that back slightly with a bit of a twist, where you could suggest something on the fly. Like as you're watching live, somebody might suggest, Lou, do a top 5 all-time favorite movies, and I would share my 5 whatever favorites, etc. And it got me thinking about expanding that idea into the podcast. And sometimes necessity really is the mother of invention, because having guests every week means that you rely on guests. And look, life happens. People have to cancel. Things get in the way. I completely understand. And I never, ever like missing a week. Like, it freaks me out. And I know sometimes it happens again because of life, but my internal guilt gets the best of me. And so I don't like missing a show. And this week is, quote, one of those weeks. As in addition to my guest who is scheduled having to cancel, I leave literally in the middle of the night, like hours from now. I leave for D23 Expo, which I've been scrambling to prep for weeks. And I have a few other like delicate plates that I'm spinning all at once. But like I said, I not only feel this for myself, but I feel like I have a responsibility to you to give you a show every single week. So this week, I'm going to give my new idea-ish a try. And so this week, my first, possibly my last, My 5 segment is born. And this too is, and like I said, an experiment, because the show is not just for you, but I really mean it when I say that it's by and for and with and about you. So I, once again, nervously, like my finger hovered over the return button on my laptop for a long time, I reached out to the members of the WDW Radio Nation. You can find out how to join and support the show at WDWRadioNation.com. And not only asked about the concept itself, but for some ideas and suggestions as well. I asked, you answered, and I am very grateful for the incredibly supportive responses and ideas. I hope you still feel equally supportive after this week's show. So this week, timing is everything. And I looked at some of the different ideas that I had, that members of the nation had, but I am in full D23 mode. I recently shared our predictions for what we expect or hope back on show 791, as well as my interview with D23 Vice President Michael Vargo on 793. And I talked about D23 and some of these predictions and expectations with you on the live show a Wednesday or two ago. But as I was preparing, still am preparing for Expo, I was thinking back to past Expos and how they started and evolved from its very early beginnings, many years ago. And I found myself smiling as so many wonderful memories and opportunities and experiences flooded back. So I hope it would be fun to share some of those with you and hopefully not only encourage you to attend in future years, but also to follow along this week from Expo. If you can't get there in person, I'll be sharing things real time as it happens, including announcements and reactions on my Instagram stories. I am at Lou Mongello on Instagram. I'll also cross-post those to the WDW Radio page, Facebook stories. I'll also be posting a number of videos as well, both on Instagram Reels as well as on Facebook. And don't forget, I'm once again going to have my D23 live booth cam running all 3 days. You can watch and chat on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you are more comfortable. And my goal is not just for you to sort of be able to peer into the WDW Radio and Mousefan Travel booth, but onto the show floor. You never know who might stop by, what surprises might be in store. But really, I want to give you a place all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, starting at 12 noon Eastern, for you to gather with other members of the WDW Radio community and Disney fans to sort of watch and just chat. Because I know for me, being at these events, like that is the highlight for me, is knowing that I'm surrounded by like-minded people and just having an opportunity to meet and chat with others. That's really sort of the goal of the booth cam. Again, turn on notifications, watch on Facebook or YouTube at d23live.com, and please help spread the word and share each of those this week with your friends or on Facebook, social groups, etc. But back to this week and this week's podcast segment. The very first My 5 segment is going to be My 5 Most Memorable Moments at D23 Expo. And in, once again, the interest of full disclosure, because I love and trust you, this is also a little bit awkward and uncomfortable for me because, one, I don't like talking about myself. I always want to make sure that the show not just hopefully entertains you, but brings you value as well. So I never want this to come off as egocentric or boastful in any way, shape, or form, but I just thought it would be fun to share some of those impactful memories over the past 15 years of D23 Expo. Maybe you've been part of some of those memories if you've been at Expo and at the booth in the past, but let's just dive right in and go with number one. And it really goes back to the very first Expo in 2009 and like Into the Unknown, like is the song that's sort of playing in my head, because not only was D23 new, but D23 Expo was this brand new concept, unlike anything Disney had ever done before. And none of us none of us knew what to expect. Certainly not those of us who were going to be exhibiting on the show floor. And actually, as I said that just brought back a memory. Like, I remember when D23 first announced that there would be an opportunity and availability for those of us who are not part of the company. We don't work for the company. I am not employed by or work for or with Disney. So the fact that they were allowing those of us who are third-party vendors or content creators or travel agencies to be on the same floor with the official Disney brand and their partners was wonderfully exciting and almost overwhelming to me. And again, there's that sense of responsibility that I always feel with the expression of trust that not only you give me by being so generous with your time and listening every week, but Disney entrusting us, they too sort of almost having no idea what to expect, but entrusting us with the ability to be on the show floor. And I remember back then it was called the Collectors Forum. Right now, so where we are is what is called the Emporium. It used to be called the Collectors Forum. And I think the idea was it gave those people who had something to offer or sell or share an opportunity to be in this place and space on the show floor. And I knew instantly I wanted to be there, not because I was necessarily interested in selling anything. Yes, I had my audio tours and books and Celebrations magazine at the time, but I really just wanted to be present and part of this event. And as always really happens when things like this are announced, Becky and I from Mouse Fan Travel get together, decide, yeah, this is a good idea that we do together. And initially, we just had our booths next to each other. And I don't even know if they were like 10 foot by 10. I think they were like 10 foot by 5 foot booths. Like, they were very small. We had single booths. And as we're getting there and setting up, we decided very early on, let's just literally tear down the wall in between the WDW Radio side and the Mouse Fan Travel side and combine forces and sort of join together as a single booth. And again, we didn't know what to expect. We didn't know who was going to be there. Like, so much of it was very new, but that led to some really interesting things happening. I remember setting up, and back then it was a 4-day event as opposed to a 3-day event. So it started on Thursday. I remember setting up on Wednesday and going live. I did a very short video, which I will actually post in the show notes this week over at WDWRadio.com. And as I look back and watch this relatively grainy video, again, live video was very early in its infancy, even back then. And I'm sort of anxiously, almost nervously looking around the show floor and being like, listen, I'm going to need to go live, not just tonight on a Wednesday, my normal Wednesday night, but I'm like, I need to go live every day as much as I can in order to try and convey to people who couldn't be at Expo or didn't go to Expo because they didn't know if it was worth going to, just what I saw starting to form as people's booths and as the show floor was starting to come together. But I look back and I'm like, oh, look, he was so sweet and innocent and young, like almost had like my voice sounded different, but I was already excited about what I saw was about to come. And that actually like brings me to my second memory, was this idea of going live. And please try and forget about the awkward video of young Lou asking you and inviting you to watch live. But I went back and I watched a few of the daily recap videos. I would normally go live a couple of times throughout the day as things were happening. And there was so much that I learned and took away from this experience, not just in terms of creating live video, but again, the podcast is the heart of what I do, but the community, you are the soul. And this idea of bringing community together like this to have this shared experience was incredible to me. There's one of the videos that I quickly scrubbed through. And I think at one point there was like 1,600 people watching live at once. And I love live video because it's not scripted and you just don't know what's going to happen and you can't go back and do it again or sort of almost overproduce it or try to sort of create a moment. They just sort of happen. So whether somebody came by the booth, Disney celebrities coming by the booth and these impromptu, mini interviews and moments and conversations happen, not just between me and that person, but between me and that person and you. Like, that's the thing that gets me so excited. And to get that real-time feedback from you is the most amazing part. It's why I love live video so much, because it's not just me, like a podcast, putting out content and then waiting for a response. It's getting that real-time interaction and engagement with you. And part of the reasons why I put live video as a separate entry on the list from this first expo in 2009 was because as I was going live on Wednesday and Thursday, I started to see something happen not once, not twice, but multiple times, which was on Friday, people would come by the booth and say, I was watching this live from home because I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I should sort of get a hotel and fly out for Expo. I was watching this live and I was so excited and I was so having like this FOMO of what I was missing out on that literally because of the live video, I booked my hotel. I got my ticket. You used to be able to get tickets like day of in the past. I booked my hotel, got my ticket, and had to be here. I had to be part of the energy that was happening in this room that I was able to see through the live video. And look, that has nothing at all to do with me or WDW Radio or what was going on. But that really, for me, was a transformative moment because I realized that I was able to, through live video, able to connect people to experiences that they could not have or do otherwise. It's why I'm doing it again this year. Right? It's why I have the booth cam really just so you can feel like whether you're on your couch or at your desk or wherever you might be, you can feel like you are part of it and you are there. More importantly, you have a place and a space that is safe and family friendly for you to meet and talk with other Disney fans from literally around the world about what you're seeing, announcements that are happening, what you're expecting, whatever it might be. It's a community building event that takes place online. It doesn't cost anything. Obviously, it's completely free. But just like the Clubhouse, right, our group on Facebook, I want to just try and help facilitate the opportunity for you to experience D23 virtually and connect and meet and chat with other Disney fans. Again, it's at d23live.com, which will take you to a link to watch over on YouTube or on Facebook. And the cool thing, too, about the booth cam, again, it's going to start as Expo opens at noon Eastern on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, August 9th, 10th, and 11th, is that this is something you can just keep on in the background. You don't have to worry about getting notified as I go live again or think, the schedule, quote unquote, at Expo is very dynamic. Things very much just happen on the fly. And that's the cool thing about the booth cam is that you never know what may happen or who will stop by or what is going on. So I know a lot of people will just, keep it on their living room TV, just, through Apple TV or YouTube, whatever, playing in the background because it gives you the sense of being there without having to stand on the hard concrete floor and wait in line for certain things for hours. So the first memory was, again, the unknown of the first D23 Expo. The second was going live. And the third memory I have is also from that very first Expo. And, I love being able to, again, this idea of being transparent. Authenticity for me is not a marketing buzzword. Like, it's just who I am. So I have no problem sharing, myself, warts and all. And when I was getting ready for the first D23 Expo, I was still partners with Tim Foster from Celebrations Magazine at the time. Tim wasn't coming out there, but I was, and I had the booth. And we were going to be able to sell and give away issues of Celebrations Magazine. I remember reaching out to Disney and I said, listen, can you tell me how many people you're expecting? And they said, look, Disney does not share numbers. And I said, look, I'm not trying to do this to report on it or to speculate, but as a vendor, I just need to know how many people to expect so I know how many magazines to order and ship out to Anaheim. So I was able to finally convince somebody to give me what was going to be an approximate number. And the numbers I'm going to use now just are completely unofficial. I am making up these numbers. These are not sort of the actual numbers that I was given, just to sort of give an idea of what was happening at the time. So they said, all right, we're expecting 40,000 people per day at Expo. I said, okay, let me start sort of reverse engineering the math. And I had never done something at this scale before. So, all right, 40,000 people per day. let's assume they travel in packs, right? There's families, there's friends. Yeah, I don't need 40,000 issues per day. Let's break it down day by day. I'll just go for one day, 40,000 people. Some are friends, some are family. Let's cut that number down, right? There's families with kids. So let's cut that number in half. Let's cut it in half again because not everybody was just going to want a Celebrations magazine. So I came up with another number that just sort of made sense, right? X number of thousands of issues of the magazine to ship out. Now, if you've never done a trade show before, and if you've never shipped magazines before, one, magazines are very heavy. Celebrations is on, still to this day, on very thick, heavy paper. When you're shipping thousands of magazines, it can be very expensive. When you ship to a show site and a convention center, there is a receiving fee, there's a handling fee, there are folks that have to sort of bring it from the loading dock to your booth. So there's a lot of expenses other than just the cost of the magazines and then the cost of shipping it across country. But that's okay, right? It's a way to get exposure and introduce people to the magazine. Even if I just gave them all away, it's a loss leader, right? You want to sort of introduce people to the magazine. Hopefully they come back and will want to subscribe. Very, very, very long story longer. What ended up happening was the number that I was given was not the number of guests, individual guests that they were expecting per day, but an aggregate number of total guests over those 4 days. So using the number 40,000, just because it makes the math easy, it really was 10,000 people a day. And then you cut that number in half and half and half. And then you end up with a number that is still much lower than the number of magazines that I ordered. So on the final day, as you are getting ready to do loadout and box everything up, and then again, have the folks who take care of the handling and the shipping at Convention Center forklift over your boxes, empty or otherwise, then forklift them back, then ship them back. There is a moment and there is a photo, and I will also post this in the clubhouse. I'll post it on social. Maybe I'll post it on Instagram as well. As they brought the still full boxes of Celebrations magazine, because you couldn't store them all in the booth, they store them for you while you're there. There's a photo of me sitting confused and dejected with this quizzical look on my face, sitting on the floor of the now empty booth, other than the pile of boxes. It looks like a Mayan step pyramid behind me. Dozens of boxes of unsold, ungiven away Celebrations magazine, because now I have to sit there and decide, well, what do I do? And I start doing the math in my head. I'm like, it will literally cost me more to have them take these magazines, bring them back to the loading dock, ship them, receive them. It would cost me less, and I hate this because it's wasteful, not just in terms of money, but in terms of resources. It was far less expensive to have them dispose of these boxes of magazines than it was for me even to sort of donate them somewhere, just to sort of get them out of the show floor. It's fine. It was an expensive lesson learned. It didn't take anything away, but I will forever have, and Becky does not let me forget about, the image of me sitting on the floor in front of my pyramid of Celebrations magazines. But it's fine. It's fine. I'm still not overly traumatized by that moment. Anyway, again, lesson learned. Moving on. So the next memory that I want to share also comes from that very first expo. Again, this was, when I say it was a transformative event in a lot of ways, I think for us as Disney fans and for just sort of me personally on a business and personal level, solidified for me a lesson I always try and teach other people when I do speaking and coaching, especially when I go to and speak at podcast conferences. And I always say, and this I think you can apply to social media as well, you never know who's listening. And that's almost meant to be less of a warning, right? Be careful what you post. The internet is written in permanent ink. You never know who might be sort of listening and paying attention. But I think you can and should flip that around, because you never know who might be listening to you. And again, I somewhat reluctantly tell this story because this is not about me. This is not about who I met or who I know. But there's a takeaway that I want you to get from this. And look, and I've shared this story before, and he's shared this story before too. And I'll get to sort of at the end part of the reason why I wanted to share this. So early 2009, and this is the first expo. So now I'm trying to like man the booth and cover the expo and be there as a guest. Like I'm wearing multiple hats as I do every year. And now I'm also trying to go live. Like, and I remember this is 2009. I'm not walking around with my phone. I'm literally walking around going live with my MacBook, a 3G internet card stuck in the side, a wired webcam plopped on top. And at certain points, I was almost having like this messenger bag with a battery pack in it. And I'm walking around the expo. I have shoulders of steel. Not really, but I'm walking around holding my laptop, taking people through the expo. And I would come back to the booth occasionally because, again, I had books and stuff like that. And I was, signing stuff and I had the magazines. And I would come back to the booth occasionally. And my wife and some of the folks who were helping out in the booth were like, listen, you got to stay here because some guy keeps coming back like over and over again and just saying that he wants to say hi to you. So I left and I came back. And at one point, I think it was my wife was like, oh, there he is. That's the guy. And our booth was sort of shaped like an L shape. Like I had tables because I had the books and stacks of magazines on it. And in the corner of the booth was a guy just wearing, my memory is slightly fuzzy, but, in my mind's eye, he just had like jeans and like a Reese's peanut butter cup t-shirt and like a hat on. And I walk over and I was like, hey, I'm Lou. Nice to meet you. I'm sorry that I missed you. And we just start chatting about Expo. And I said, oh, what brings you out here? He said, well, I was going to come out anyway because I'm just a huge fan of Disney and stuff, but my company was actually just bought by Disney. I said, wow, that's cool. What company do you work for? He says, Marvel. And I'm like, wow, man, that's really cool. Like literally the deal had just happened like a week or two earlier. It was like late August. I think it happened. And the first D23 was like a week or two later, that first week and a half or so of September. And so I said, that's great. Congratulations. Like, what do you do there? And I'm thinking, oh, he's like, I don't know, like a janitor or something. He's like, and he pauses for a second. He goes, oh, like Iron Man and Hulk? And I said, yeah. He goes, I made them. I said, what do you mean? He says, I'm Kevin Feige. I'm the president of Marvel Studios. Now, again, in the interest of full disclosure, as big of a comic book and MCU and Marvel fan that I am, remember, back in 2009, there was no expo, and social media was very different. So a lot of the folks who were in leadership positions or even now sort of quote unquote positions of celebrity were not literally and metaphorically as visible. So when he says, I'm Kevin Feige, I'm the president of Marvel Studios, there's this like slow motion moment where I'm like, Mangello, you better recover quickly. So I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Well, so now I'm incredibly embarrassed, but we're chatting and in the middle of my mind, like all these different thoughts are racing. And so I run over and I'm like, oh, let me give him, copies of audio tours and books and things like that. I'm like, this is the president of Marvel Studios. And I said, listen, I would love to interview about the acquisition on the show. I said, would you be willing to come on? He goes, absolutely. Yeah, I would certainly love to. But, the ink is still sort of wet. We're figuring a lot of things out, maybe at some point a little bit farther down the road. I said, absolutely. Whenever works best for you. I said, do you have a card? And he sort of reaches and goes, oh, I actually don't have any cards with me, but I listen to the show and we'll keep in touch and things like that. And he was very, very kind and very pleasant, like the nicest guy in the world. And we shake hands and he walks away. And I was like, Mangello, you idiot. I just don't happen to have cards. Like, that's not the president of Marvel Studios. So I call my brother, who is a massive comic book fan. I was like, dude, real quickly, tell me, just don't ask why. What's the name of the president of Marvel Studios? He says, Kevin Feige. I said, uh-oh. So I get now on my phone and I start Googling with the really slow internet that was there. And the photo comes up and it was Kevin Feige. And I'm like, oh my God, like, hopefully you recovered off. I think I did, because eventually Kevin did come on the show a couple of times. I think I was able to meet and see him a number of times. And he's been incredibly gracious and generous at expos since, coming by the booth just to say hello. And that's the story like I really wanted to get to, because they always say, like, never meet your heroes. Kevin Feige defies that logic in spades. He is the most kindest, like, down-to-earth human being. Like, you would never know he is in that position because he is there, because he is a fan first. he walks the show floor not because he has to, it's a PR thing. He walks the show floor because he wants to see the stuff that's on the show floor. And again, he's so generous to come by the booth. And he came by, I remember 2 specific times. He came back to the booth in 2017 and 2019 and has thankfully come back every year since. But on those 2 years, my kids happened to be with me at Expo. And I can see this in my mind's like it was yesterday. So I see Kevin come to the booth, not with this huge entourage. He had one person who was with him. And I was talking to somebody, or I was live. I don't remember what it was. And I couldn't just sort of walk away from where I was. But he walked over and saw my kids and my wife. I'm going to cry. And I remember sort of seeing in my periphery and sort of listening with one ear, him talking to my kids and looking, when I say looking down, sort of getting down on their level and telling my kids and giving my kids, and my son still giving my kids this gift of saying, Marion, Nicholas, I know who you are. I hear you on the show. I love your food reviews. Like he said that to my son again in 2019. He goes, I love hearing you on your food reviews. Like I have a photo of my kids with Kevin and they're beaming. They're just beaming. Like it's a moment, it's a gift that he gave to my kids that they will remember forever. Like I am so fortunate to have had that happen. And again, like everything that I'm talking about, that moment of not me getting to see and talk to Kevin, but Kevin talking to my kids and with my kids like that only happens because of you. None of this happens without you. And that's the last moment and memory that I want to share is since day one and D23, without question, this show is yes, it's about Disney and Marvel and so on, but it's about people and it's about you and the people that you meet. And I want to be super, super careful here because if I start to name specific people, I am afraid I know I will definitely leave some people out, and I never want to do that. Everyone matters to me. You matter to me. Every interaction, every story, smile, snack, handshake, and hug matters. And it's one of the things that I love most about Expo. It's a reason why I have a booth on the show floor. I have nothing to sell. Like I don't bring anything to sell. I make zero. To say the least, I make zero. It costs a lot to have a booth. And I don't care because it's not about a financial return for me. It's about the relationship return. It's not so you can come and meet me. It's so I have a place to go and meet you. I always look at the booth as sort of like a home base for members of the WDW Radio community and family, whether we have met yet or not, to come back to, right? Know that you have a friend there, a place to sort of talk about what is going on. That's what the booth is for me. And when I talk about it being about the people that you meet, even if we have never met before, and yes, I'm talking specifically to you, I would not be here. I would not be doing the show. I would certainly not be at Expo if it wasn't for you. And I love and appreciate, and I'm so excited and looking forward to, yes, the panels and the floor and the announcements, but meeting people and sharing those stories with them. And yes, of course, seeing, and, sometimes they come by the booth, legends and new friends and fellow Disney fans. Like, again, there's these people and relationships I never would have met or made otherwise. And I was going back before I was recording this, and I was watching some of my old videos, from the recap videos, from going back to the very first Expo to some of the live videos. And I see people on those videos that I met on the show floor for the first time and I've become friends with since. And also, so many of the famous faces that came in to the booth. Like I look at this and I'm like, how am I sitting there interviewing and talking with this person whose work I have loved and appreciated for so long? And then, yes, been fortunate to have a relationship with them beyond those few moments in the booth and on the show floor or on the podcast, but it really is about, for me, the individual moments. And it's why I don't want to sort of mention or say anyone specifically, but it's people who come up and say that they listen. That alone, right, is a gift. The fact that you listen, right, that your time is your most valuable commodity. The fact that you spend and share it with me means a lot. Same thing at Expo. There's so much going on for you to take time to come over to the booth. And again, I'm there because I want to hear your story, not for me to share mine. And when people come and they tell me that they listen or how the show helped them or got them through something, like I remember there was one time somebody told me this story, and I am legit like ugly crying right in the middle of the booth. And I didn't care, like, because again, I feel like I'm surrounded by friends. Yes, like there was live video of it too. And it didn't matter because that's what this is all about, right? This is all about people and it's about relationships. And that's one of the things, it is the thing that I love most about the Expo. Now, that being said, I would be very remiss if I did not mention so many of the people who helped make this experience and the booth happen. Obviously, my friendship and my partnership with Mouse Fan Travel and Becky, we have shared a lot of good times, some stressful times, way too much time on calls prepping for Expo over the years. But, you know, our booths have been unified as one since the very first. This year is literally going to be bigger and better than ever. I cannot wait to see exactly what we have planned come to pass. We have a few new things and surprises this year, and I am hugely grateful to Becky and everybody else over at Mouse Fan Travel. Look, some of the best times we've have been setting up the booth, and yes, even tearing it down. And that does not happen alone. There's like a lot of things that are all happening. I remember last Expo, giving somebody, I don't even remember who it was, giving somebody my credit card. I'm literally juggling like 37 different things and people all at once as we're sort of getting ready to wrap things up. And asking somebody like, please, like you fly, I'll buy. Like, can you please make an in and out run? Like everybody is starving and has been like working so hard. Here's my credit card. Just bring back like 50 burgers and fries and drinks and we'll figure it out later. So like, those are just some of, I think I got my credit card back. Those are just some of like the fun moments and memories that don't necessarily get put on video, but I'm just so grateful to the people around who help make that happen and all the prep and setup and help both before we get to Expo and after. Again, Becky and the Mouse Fan Travel team and some of the folks who have helped me over the years in the booth. You know, Corey has like been the keeper of the box and live video for years. He and so many others, you know, they help me remember to eat. Yes, if you could believe that, sometimes I'm just so busy I almost forget to eat because there is so much going on. And again, I'm so tempted to start naming and thanking people and friends who volunteer their time to help in the booth. I just want to be careful to not start naming and then excluding somebody. Although I have to mention our balloon guy, John, we've had a balloon sculpture every year since the second Expo. Like we've had a giant sorcerer hat and an AT-AT walker and Spider-Man and Groot and Figment last year. We have a surprise working on this year. I am more excited for this year's event for so many reasons. One, because of the booth and some of the new things that we're doing, some of the opportunities that we're going to have there. If you are coming to Expo, please come by the Emporium. We are booth 405. We actually have a huge square. Come by the booth. Everyone is a winner in a unique game we have planned in the booth. When I say everyone is a winner. Like we have legit prizes and giveaways for everybody who comes by the booth, as well as an opportunity to win a big prize at the end. I'm also looking forward to sharing and covering and talking with you as much as we can, sort of real time as these events and announcements are happening. I'm going to be sharing a lot on my Instagram stories just so I can get content out as quickly and as easily as possible, and then doing some recap videos. We'll certainly do a podcast and a live show discussion about Expo after Expo. Also, if you are going to be there, please don't forget about our WDW Radio family photo on Saturday at 2 p.m. in the booth, in the Emporium, on the show floor. But the last, and I think the most important person that I need to thank is you. You are the one person that is listening, that I am talking to. Like, thank you for your friendship. Thank you for being part of Expo, whether you're there in person or you're watching online. I hope every day, and I mean this sincerely, every day is a gift that you have given me to allow me to do what I do and share it with you in so many different ways. And I hope that comes through in my coverage of Expo and that you enjoy what you see and you hear. We're going to have a lot to recap when this is done. But as I always say, this show is about you. So I want to know what your favorite memory from D23 Expo is, whether you have been there on the show floor, whether you've watched some of the coverage live, whether you've watched some of the videos, been part of the conversation, maybe something we talked about on the podcast. I would love to know from you what has been your favorite memory from D23 Expo. You can comment on a post. I will post this in our Facebook group over in the Clubhouse, WDWRadio.com/Clubhouse. I'll also post it on Instagram. So wherever you choose to spend your time, you can comment there. Again, don't forget to follow along Instagram. I am at Lou Mongello. You can watch the live booth cam on Facebook and or YouTube at D23Live.com. That'll give you a link to either or both of those. And I ask you, please, to share and forward with others, but to invite them to have the shared experience together, either to follow along on social with me or to watch and be part of the conversation and the community in the live booth cam. If you're going to be at Expo, I cannot wait to see you there. Please come by the booth for not just prizes, handshakes, hugs, and some great conversation and community. But stay tuned. We're not done yet because it's time for our trivia question of the week. Time to test your knowledge of Walt Disney World history or see how well you pay attention to the details in what you see, hear, remember, maybe if you've even tasted over the years. If you think you know the answer, you can enter for a chance to win a Disney Prize package. And this week's trivia contest is once again brought to you by you. Because as a member of the nation, you not only help bring every episode of the show to life, but you also get to unlock exclusive rewards for as little as $1 per month, like scavenger hunts, group video calls, get access to our private community, physical care packages, and more. Plus, your contribution helps our Dream Team project, which benefits the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And this week, I want to acknowledge and thank some of the longest time members of the Nation family, including Zach Brown, David Potts, David McIntosh, Nancy McCauley-Turingia, Amy Peterson, Elizabeth Marsh, Beatrice, and Chris Alger. I appreciate you so very much. Your support and friendship means more than you know. And if you want to find out how you can help the show for as little as $1 per month and be part of the Nation family, please visit WDWRadio.com/support. Now, before we get to this week's question, let's go back, review last week's, and select our winner. So last week we were talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Deadpool and Wolverine and what the future might hold for the MCU as a whole, but last week's trivia contest brought us back to the very beginning because I asked you to tell me, who did Marvel choose to direct the film that would launch the MCU, which was Iron Man back in 2008? Thanks to so many of you who entered, got this one correct, and knew that the answer was, of course, Jon Favreau. So in addition to doing a show easily about the top 10, 100 things I love about Kevin Feige, I could probably do one about Jon Favreau as well. Not just because he was so passionate about the character of Iron Man, but really having a vision about how to bring him to the silver screen, but also because he was the director of Elf. I also loved him in Rudy. I cry every time he screams, "Who's the wild man now?" But I digress. But you can't sort of overstate just what Favreau did in terms of helping to set a new tone for superhero movies, one that was very much character-driven. Like, Favreau cast Robert Downey Jr. after watching him in Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And remember, at the time, Downey was still sort of recovering from some of the past legal and substance abuse issues, but he sort of knew that Downey could sort of draw on that to bring some charisma and authenticity to that character. He encouraged collaboration from the actors and improvisation to make it sort of more natural and spontaneous. So I think it not only launched the MCU, but I think really Jon Favreau helped to redefine the superhero genre as a whole. Anyway, maybe a longer discussion for another time, but I took all the correct entries, randomly selected one. Last week, you're once again playing for the keychain, the stickers, the pin, and a mystery item or two. And last week's winner, randomly selected, is Emmy Cannon. So Emmy, congratulations. I will get your prize package out to you right away. If you played last week and didn't win, that's okay, because here's your next chance to enter in this week's non-Walt Disney World Trivia Challenge. So one of my favorite parts of D23 Expo, the Ultimate Disney Fan Experience, is the Legends Ceremony. And since 1987, the Walt Disney Company has honored individuals who have made major contributions to the company with the Disney Legends Award. And since 2009, they've been holding those ceremonies biannually at the Expo. This year it's going to take place on Sunday night at the Honda Center, and I believe it's going to be streamed live on Disney+. But like I did this week, let's go back to the very first D23 Expo, because tell me, which 2009 Disney legend starred as Maude Finley on the TV show Maude before joining the Golden Girls? What 2009 Disney legend was on the Golden Girls, but was first TV's Maude? You have until Sunday, August 11th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern to go to WDWRadio.com, click on this week's podcast, use the form there. This week, you're going to play for the keychain, the stickers, the pin, mystery items. Maybe I'll even bring something back from D23 just for this week's winner. So good luck and have fun. Also, before I go, please don't forget to subscribe to our free weekly email newsletter and updates over at WDWRadio.com/subscribe. It is the best way to keep updated. There's no algorithm. There's nothing to check. It's delivered to your inbox every Wednesday. That is the best way to make sure you don't miss a thing, whether it is an event, a live show. I've got a couple of announcements, maybe an event, opportunities coming up. Please, please, please stay tuned. Please also visit LouMangello.com if you're looking for a keynote speaker for your event or conference. I share lessons from the Disney parks on customer service, leadership, and experiences. Or if you're a creator, entrepreneur, or solopreneur who's looking to take your business, brand, or idea to the next level, find out some of the ways I can help you. We can work together, and about my Momentum series of events, including my workshop this fall in Walt Disney World. And just last night, I was finally able to share a huge announcement, something I've been thinking and working on for a while, which is the Momentum Scholarship Program, which is literally your golden ticket to join us at the Momentum Weekend Workshop in Walt Disney World, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, September 27th through 29th, where you can get the insights, strategies, and motivation you need to take your business, brand, or idea to the next level. And it is more than a conference or a workshop. It really is an opportunity to immerse yourself in a community of like-minded creators, receive expert mentorship, and gain the insights and practical and tactical strategies. You get a huge 170-plus page workbook and the motivation and ongoing support to help elevate your business or brand or idea to new levels. You can learn more by going to LouMangello.com/scholarship. It is open now, but the application deadline is approaching quickly. And finally, my friend, and you are my friend, whether we have met yet or not, all I ask is that if you like the show, please help spread the word. Share a link to this or your favorite episode on social. And I would love, and sincerely appreciate your feedback about not just this episode, but the whole idea of doing a solo episode that may or may not be, I meant it to be a little bit shorter than some of the other episodes, but what your thoughts are about the solo shows, the My 5, and if you have a suggestion for a My 5 that you would like me to do in the future, message me on social, email me, lou@wdwradio.com, or post in the clubhouse. I hope to see you in person or online at or from D23 Expo. I love and appreciate you. Please always remember to choose the good, have a great day, and even better tomorrow. So until next time, see ya.
Hey, Lou, this is Jim Smith calling from Hanover, Mass. Hey, I just listened to your episode that you recorded with Nick on the future of the MCU, Deadpool and Wolverine, Robert Downey Jr., and all that good stuff. So I did have a takeaway, and you mentioned it at the end of the episode. It's been great to listen to Nick over the years. He has grown, and he has become so much more insightful and eloquent with his opinions and his discussions with you. It's been great to listen to him grow through the years. Nice job with that. It was so fun to hear a father and a son discussing comic books, even now as both adults. And so it's a lot of fun to hear that and to see as I kind of mirror that in my own life. And my son is not as old as Nick, but he's getting there. Anyhow, getting to the actual matter at hand, Robert Downey Jr., I think he could be a great pick, but this plan is rife with a lot of risk. If they don't do this, Marvel doesn't pull this off and do it right, there's going to be a lot of criticism. But I think that the Russo brothers are the people that can make it right. If they can manage to disguise Robert Downey Jr.'s likeness with enough makeup or CGI, I think it'll help to create a visual barrier between him and Tony Stark and Iron Man so that we can try to see him as Dr. Doom that he's meant to be. Either that or, I don't know if there's any chance they're looking at some kind of a multiversal version of Dr. Doom that somehow relates to Tony Stark. What I do know is that the attributes, the personalities of Dr. Doom and Tony Stark and Robert Downey Jr. In terms of ego and sort of their genius nature, they're all so very similar that it's hard to pry them apart. But I'm excited to see what happens, how they can do it. Most importantly, I'm excited for the multiverse to come to an end. And if that is what ends up happening at the end of the Secret Wars, like you said, then that is A-okay with me, because the confusion of the multiverse is something that is a source of endless frustration to me. And I will be happy to see them turn the page from the multiverse. Anyhow, thanks a lot, Lou. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for a great episode, and looking forward to the future of Marvel. Take care.
Hi, Lou. This is Jeff from New York City. I just finished listening to your iconic sounds of Walt Disney World episode and had to call in to share some thoughts. First of all, I'm so glad that you snuck in there with the honorable mention of the chime from when you swipe in with the Magic Band. It was one of the first things that I thought of, and the whole episode I was thinking to myself, I can't believe neither of them said this, and I'm so glad you got it in there, because I love that sound. It helps me to know that I'm in my favorite place in the world, and to your point, no other sound is possible without hearing that one first. So thanks for including that one. But the reason I had to call in also was to share, I am a former cast member from Disney's Animal Kingdom, and one of the most iconic sounds was the sound that could be heard from Primeval World, a now extinct attraction, and specifically the chime that could be heard as your little cart reached the top of the hill. It was definitely a rip-off of a microwave sound, which, was in keeping with the theming of that section of Dino Land. And while I can't say it was my favorite sound in the world, it certainly was an iconic one and could be heard all throughout the park, all the way over in what used to be Camp Mini Mickey and now obviously is Pandora. There's certainly a part of me that misses hearing that sound whenever I'm back in Animal Kingdom. So wanted to call in and share. Thank you for all that you do, and hope to meet you on maybe an upcoming trip. I'll be there in a couple of weeks. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Hey, Lou, it's Patrice Roberti from Metro Boston. I heard that shout-out on number 793, the D23 show. I heard it last night, so thank you very much. I noticed that and smiled. I appreciate it, and I hope you have your enthusiasm and excitement about going to D23 is over the top. I hope it is your best one ever in every way, so good luck with that. I was thinking of you last night as well, listening to the show. Walt Disney was a young man in the Depression and World War II, and, there's a lot of news in the news in those days, and there's a lot of news in the news these days, and there'll be a lot of news in the news 100 years from now, and probably 1,000 years from now. But you do such an excellent, remarkable, appreciated job of just steering clear of all that. I hope people tell you all the time that they notice that. I mean, you're on topic, you're talking about things that are happening now, but you just don't go to topics that you provide what Disney provided. You provide a pleasant escape, an entertaining escape, an educational escape, an interesting escape, and entertainment, and that is a great thing. So God bless you for never, it seems like you just don't want to go there, and God bless you for that. Plenty of other places to get that stuff if one wants it, but it's nice to have a fun, interesting hour just listening to something else. I'm sure you are providing a service to many who really need it, and I don't really need it, thank God, but you're providing a service to me because I really love it and appreciate it. So just wanted to say that, and I hope you have a great, great, great time in California. I always think of you on these adventures. You're adventuring for the rest of us, and you bring the stories and everything home. So thank you very much for doing that, because I probably won't get to Hong Kong unless they invent some sort of way to do it like on Star Trek. Take care. Bye.